Hi, I'm Rick Snyder. We've talked about this forever. Pizza and pigskin tours, where we eat pizza, we walk around, see a little bit of historical sites and all that. Well, it's finally happening. You can go to my website, monumentalthoughts.com, and see where, how you can get tickets. The tickets do include the price of pizza and non-alcoholic drinks. Pay for your own beer. But we're going to walk around Georgetown, 20, 30 minutes. I'm going to show you a lot of cool stuff. Then we're just going to sit and talk and eat pizza and whatever you want to ask, I'll talk about, as long as they don't get me in court. So make sure you come and see the pizza and pigskin tours at monumentalthoughts.com, and I'll be eating pizza with you soon.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogstye. It is our first ever preseason bye-week show because they've never had a week in between these two things, and I don't like it because it's like a week without NFL football for no reason.
You can blame Labor Day.
Yeah,
blame Labor Day.
I'm blaming Labor Day. Yes, they're giving everyone Labor Day off.
It's that they don't want the TV, the premiere of the new TV season basically to occur over a holiday weekend. That's why we're doing this.
See, that's actually smart, I guess. Just move things around. Don't give us a week off.
They don't mind doing
preseason
week 4 of the preseason, but they don't want the big national premiere to be on in the middle of an American holiday.
I get that. You can move things. It's not hard. This is Alex, of course. Steve, you heard already. We got Jamal on the horn as well. Jamal, how you doing?
Things are good. I can't complain, man. It's a good weekend. College football's back. NFL's coming up in a couple days, and then the kid won his first bet of the season yesterday. So
you won your first bet.
Yeah, won the first bet. I had Virginia Tech +6. So what I'm saying, I'm feeling
nice.
I'm feeling pretty good. People felt that -6 for North Carolina because they ranked 10 in the country and had Sam Howell. Thought that was going to do some favors for the kid. And I strongly believe a lot of people who chose -6 just didn't do their homework.
Well, we will have an ad, Jamal, that you'll like in the middle of the show, so you can look forward to that one. Speaking of gambling, hint, hint to everybody. All right, but let us really welcome the big guest, the guy we seem to try and get every year around this week. Mark Bullock back on the show with us, the X's and O expert from across the pond. The one-time post writer, which is how we met him, back when you were writing for the Post, Mark, way back when, and then athletic, and now you're off doing your own freelance thing. How you doing, bud? Always love reading your stuff on the Stack and all that.
Yeah, all's pretty good here, just gearing up for the season like everyone else, and looking forward to it.
Now, can you give us give the audience some info about how they can find you now?
Yeah, so obviously my Twitter is always active at Mark Bullock NFL, and then where I'm writing now is my Substack, which is markbullock.substack.com, and that's currently right now it's free, but once we get into the regular season, I'm going to start putting stuff behind a paywall, and people can subscribe and see all the X's and O's analysis stuff that I typically do.
Sure.
And this is all of Mark's normal good stuff, so definitely check it out.
Yeah, nobody quite knows the X's and O's like you, which has always been the most fascinating thing, that you kind of just dedicated yourself to figuring this team out and all that stuff. And how did you come up with that website name, by the way? Very original.
I just put my own name in it, and they have to have the .substack.com, so I just put my name in front of it.
You're lucky, with Twitter handles and stuff, like Mark Bullock. I'm sure there's 40 Mark Bullocks now on Twitter, so you're lucky you were able to just get your name and not something weird.
Oh, I had to add NFL because the original Mark Bullock Twitter handle was taken when I first joined Twitter. And it is just
okay.
I've tried to see if we could get it kicked off Twitter or something like that, because it was one person that had one tweet in 2012 and has doesn't follow anyone, and doesn't do anything. So like I tried to steal that account at some point. Well, not steal, but I tried to claim that account, but ended up having to go with NFL. So
let's get into the football part of it here. We had you on at the beginning of the preseason and talked about some of this stuff, and so now that you've had now that you've had some time to see the team, we've seen 3 games. Just give us your general impressions specifically about how you think the offense is running, and what do you think we can see from them when the season starts?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone made a big deal out of them not scoring points, and obviously that matters to an extent, but their starting offense only had a few drives. You don't really game plan in the preseason. You don't try to set stuff up. You kind of just go with a basic thing and see if you can get into a bit of a rhythm. And, they put together a couple of drives and they looked okay. They were mixing and matching different pieces here and there. We saw Cam Sims and De'Ami Brown switching in and out, and we saw Adam Humphries in the slot. We never saw Curtis Samuel, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. So, sure. We didn't see what the offense is going to be this season, I don't think. So I'm still relatively optimistic about the offense. I'm not too concerned about it with the preseason performance, but I don't think we saw anywhere near what the offense is capable of.
No, I mean, we know they keep it vanilla too, right? They're not going to show all their cards. But, you brought up the points thing, and I want to talk about that first. It definitely felt like to me, and I know Steve agrees with me, that they probably should have put the offense out there a little bit more, that starting offense, because they looked shaky. Not so much the not scoring aspect. I mean, that's part of it, but, there were times where Ryan Fitzpatrick looked like he'd gotten rattled in the pocket due to protection issues, for example. So what were your kind of thoughts on that part of it, that they looked like they were struggling at times, and yet they didn't get a couple more drives in that second game or a drive in the third game?
Yeah, I probably would have given them a little bit more exposure, but I'm pretty okay with what they did. A guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick has been around the league long enough that he should be able to gear up for the regular season without needing too much time. And Charles Leno on the left tackle, Brandon Sheriff, Chase Roudier is an experienced vet now. These guys don't need that much time. Obviously, we saw a little bit of flipping flopping at left guard with Flowers and Schweitzer. And Sam Cosmi needed the reps. But I think we saw that from week 1 to week 2 preseason. Week 1, he looked a little rusty. He looked like he kind of played the occasion of his first preseason game, his first NFL action, and kind of maybe bought into that a little bit too much and kind of reverted back to the techniques that we saw in college, where he was lunging a little bit, bending from the waist, and his technique wasn't particularly sound. But the second week he looked a lot more comfortable. He wasn't waist bending. He didn't have any of those kind of issues, and he looked way better. He looked more of the part of an NFL right tackle. So I think when you look up front, you look at the positives there. Tight end Logan Thomas looks in good shape, and we saw a couple of those. The one particular from Fitzpatrick down the sideline on third down, we saw him throw one up and Thomas make a nice adjustment in the air to go get it. So Terry McLaurin is Terry McLaurin. He's going to be good. So I think a lot of the pieces, I think, you only really need to get them a little bit of work. Maybe you give them an extra drive here or there, but is one more drive 2 weeks ago, going to really make a huge difference in a week's time? Or is that just more likely that someone might get hurt and you might miss a key piece going into the regular season? I don't know. I think there is merit to both sides of it, but I tend to believe more along the lines of that they have enough established pieces on the offense that they don't need to be risking them more than they need to.
I thought the offensive line looked pretty disjointed, for lack of a better term, for a good chunk of the preseason. I didn't think they looked like they'd played together very well sometimes. I thought we'll get to Curtis Samuel in a minute, but of the whole offensive team, of the whole offensive group, rather, I thought the offensive line is the one that could have used more work more than anybody else, to be honest.
My disagreement there would be, I think a lot of the issues they had were one or two individual things rather than as a unit as a whole. I think in general they dealt with stunts pretty well. Certainly the starting unit, at least. The backups had issues, but the starting unit, I think they passed off stunts pretty well. As I said in that first game, Cosme struggled because he reverted back to some of his college techniques, which he's been working on all off season, and he didn't have that in the second game. Leno is generally pretty solid. In the run game, he had a few issues, and that's why we saw some of the runs to the left got blown up because there was one or two in the second game where he tried to pull around to the edge and didn't quite get to his guy. And so those are things that I don't know if any more reps for him doing that is going to make him suddenly faster, getting out, pulling out to the edge, and then getting to his guy. I don't know. But in general, I was okay with the offensive line. Certainly the starting unit. I thought Sheriff and Roulier were pretty solid. That left guard spot, I'm kind of surprised they went with Flowers, but they did seem to run more gap seam stuff, and Flowers gives them. He's still a pretty athletic guy, but he's a bigger guy, so he gives them more power to run the gap scheme stuff when they pull a guard, rather than Wes Schweitzer, who is more of an athletic guy and runs the zone scheme well. And I've said all offseason I thought Schweitzer with Roulier and Sheriff gave them a really nice interior three last year, and they ran the zone scheme really well down the stretch with those three. But Flowers gives them a little bit more versatility, I suppose, and gives them the ability to do more things. So I'm guessing that's why they've gone in that direction.
Well, but the team's depth chart on their website says Schweitzer is the first string. So I'm a bit confused as to who we're going to see out there. I
think it'll be Flowers, because I thought it would be Schweitzer going into it, and Schweitzer certainly started as left guard in the first game, but after the first drive,
Flowers.
Yeah, Flowers came in on the second drive with the starting unit. And then in the second game, it was Eric Flowers the whole way, and Schweitzer didn't play with the first unit. So to me, that says it's Flowers' job.
That's why I was a bit confused as why the depth chart said that. But
yeah, that's usually a team media thing that they don't quite get right.
The elephant in the room, I think, is Curtis Samuel, and Jamal wrote a piece about this that's up there on the website. Ron Rivera acted like it was sort of no big deal that Curtis Samuel wasn't out there at all. How worried are you about him?
To an extent, yes. I am worried because we haven't seen him at all, and they've played this down as no big deal, and he'll be back basically next week, or he'd play if it was a regular season game and that kind of thing, and he's just not practiced basically the whole of training camp and preseason. So
only had one practice, and that was back in May. May.
Yeah. So it's clearly a bigger deal than they've made it out to be. But I guess Rivera finally put some kind of timetable on it by saying he expects him to practice on Monday. So I guess on Monday we'll see, and that will be, if he doesn't practice, then that will be the alarm bells. I think from their point of view, obviously Samuel knows the scheme. He knows the offense. He was with Scott Turner and Ron Rivera in Carolina, so he shouldn't have any issues there. Yes, you'd like to see him get some reps with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think even Fitzpatrick himself said he's thrown to plenty of receivers, and as a kind of journeyman quarterback that seems to play for half the league, he's going to throw into half the league's receivers, so he's going to adjust relatively quickly. Right. So I don't see it as a huge issue. The other real benefit to Washington is that they suddenly have a lot of depth at receiver. Terry is going to be Terry at the X, but De'Ami Brown looks like he could contribute early, so he could take over at the Z. Cam Sims played the Z last year, so he could take over at it. They could flip-flop those two. Adam Humphries is a solid slot receiver that has a lot of experience and what have you. So I'm not overly concerned. Obviously, you'd love to have Curtis Samuel. You'd love to have your big free agent signing, and you'd love to have the explosiveness that he brings to the offense. But I don't think it means that they can't have a productive offense without it.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up Brown, and you're right. Like, he kind of, at least in my opinion, he was rather impressive in this preseason. So, if Samuels has to maybe not be a starter the first week or two, like, do they lose that much necessarily now with Brown and Humphries as your 2 and 3? Like, that, I think, a fair question.
Yeah, I think they certainly lose something because Curtis Samuel does some things differently than what they would do with Dyami Brown. Obviously, we know about the jet sweep stuff, the backfield action with him lining up as a running back and that kind of thing. They lose some of that, but they didn't really have that last year. And then J.D. McKissick kind of played in the slot and did that kind of stuff last year. And there's no reason they couldn't go back to that this year if they want to do that kind of thing. So they miss out on a guy that would be probably one of their best 2 playmakers on offense, obviously. But in terms of Dyami Brown is a pretty good replacement. He's someone that can stretch the field vertically and give them a nice threat opposite Terry McLaurin. And then you've got a pretty decent group of weapons to throw to with Logan Thomas taking a step up at tight end and Adam Humphries as kind of a security blanket. And we get to see Antonio Gibson's expanded role as a running back that can catch the ball. So that that could all contribute to making up for a lack of Samuel.
I mean, to me, the fact that they kept 7 on receivers tells me, this may be a bit Oliver Stone conspiracy theory-ish, but that tells me that they're worried about something. There's no reason why they need 7 wide receivers on the active roster. There's been years when they've kept 5. So it makes me wonder if they're expecting Samuel not to be there.
I don't know too much about that necessarily. I think that was probably more down to they really liked Dax Milne as a future prospect and thought that someone might take him. And so they wanted to keep that 7th guy. And DeAndre Carter is kind of the 6th guy, and he's just a punt returner. So I'm guessing that's why they went 7 there. I don't necessarily think it's because of Samuel, but who knows? Maybe that does play into it a little bit. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay.
I was going to jump to tight ends. What about you?
Yeah, we prepared for this show, folks. I was going to go running back, but let's stick with tight ends because I think Sammis Reyes has caught the attention of the whole fan base because of his story and his athleticism and all that stuff. So what were your thoughts of Sammis Reyes throughout the preseason?
I mean, it's not going to be popular. I didn't see anything that suggested he could contribute this year. That's just me being honest. Like I love the story, and it would be amazing if the athleticism that he measures with the pro day at Florida, the speed and the size and the strength and all that kind of stuff. If that translated to the field, that'd be amazing. And who knows, in a year or two's time, maybe it does. Or maybe later this season it does. But from what we saw in the preseason, I mean, the guy had 3 catches. 2 of them he bobbled, so he nearly dropped. And the third was a shallow cross that was 3rd and 4 or something like that, and he only got 2 yards. So, it's not like he did anything particularly special as a receiver. And then even just watching him when the ball wasn't thrown to him, he wasn't burning guys with his speed. He wasn't matching up on linebackers and beating them up the seam, and the quarterback just didn't see them. He wasn't. I didn't see that athleticism translate. And Rivera talked up his run blocking and said he was the most physical guy they have at tight end. I mean, that's more of a damning case to everyone else necessarily than speaking up how good Sammis Reyes was from what I saw. I put out a couple of tweets of from the Ravens game and the Patriots game. He obviously missed that second one. From those games, you saw him struggling to identify exactly what his assignment was, where he'd sort of make a first step and then go, oh wait, am I meant to be blocking this guy inside or this guy outside? Which guy am I going? And then ends up blocking no one. Or on a simple sift block where you go back across the line, you cut off the defensive end, he would go way too early. He'd drop his head, he'd be 3 steps away from the guy, and the guy would just see him dropping his head and duck inside and beat him and make the tackle. So, like, I didn't see a guy that, if it wasn't for the amazing athleticism that he displayed and they thought that someone else might take a shot on him, he wouldn't have made the team. There's no way, based on just a pure football relevance this year, he would have made the team. I'm guessing that they've had some kind of information that a team like the Texans, that aren't going to win anything this year, might have taken a flyer on him and tried to develop him. But I personally still find that hard to believe, because the guy never played football before. He spent this whole off-season learning just the basics of the game and being taught it in this system. So if he, 4 or 5 months into that, suddenly has to be cut and move halfway across the country and go to a new system with new terminology, they're going to have to reteach him the whole game from a different language. So, like, it's a long-term project, whoever picks him up, and obviously Washington feel like he's worth persisting with, and the track record at tight end with Logan Thomas last year and what have you suggests that they deserve benefit of the doubt here, but just I don't see how he contributes this year.
Yeah, I agree. Personally, I would have cut him, and put him on the practice squad, and if they lose him, they lose him. I didn't think it was worth all that.
That's kind of where I was at as well, but, like, obviously they feel like there's something there, and they don't want someone else to get him, but I would imagine the moment he gets any kind of injury, he goes to IR.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, they put who was it going on the defense? They put that safety they drafted on IR for Derek Forrest, a hangnail or something. I don't really know.
Yeah, he was another one that didn't really, like, from the moment they drafted him, they said he's a special teams guy. Don't worry about him on defense. He's a special teams guy. And, like, when I only got the film of the special teams for the Patriots game, but he was with the second unit on that. He wasn't with the starting unit. So
yeah, I went and watched all the special teams plays on that game. He did not stand out.
No, he had 1 tackle, which was decent, but, like, the rest of it, he was just another special teams guy. So, and, I'm sure his college film was great, and I'm sure it means that in time he'll become that special teams guy, but, like, this year, I don't think he's going to contribute too much.
Let's move to running back, unless there's anything more to say about tight ends, because I really want to hear.
I am curious. Bates only had that 1 big catch. Do you see him kind of just being that one-dimensional seam tight end and then blocker? Like that seems to be what he did in college.
Yeah, I'm more skeptical about Bates as a blocker than most are, because from watching his film in college, I didn't think he was that good at it. I think there was certainly potential there that can be developed, and I would trust this coaching staff to develop that, but I didn't see him as this amazing run blocker that can come in and seal the edge week 1. Like, he's going to have to work at it, and that goes for a lot of tight ends, but I think we saw him even in that Ravens game playing in the, like, 3rd and 4th quarter. So yeah. I think that kind of speaks to, they think he needs the reps. They think he needs the work. I think he's someone that will need some time. I ideally as tight end number 3 probably, but I think he's probably going to end up working as tight end number 2, and they will just pray that Logan Thomas doesn't get hurt. There's certainly potential there, and the catching ability, like, the lack of athleticism is, I don't want to say lack of athleticism. He's an NFL player. They're great athletes, all of them. But comparatively, he's not a special athlete. And so he relies on being able to separate vertically, which he's great at. And that suits certain quarterbacks, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of them. And that catch radius is fantastic. He doesn't drop the ball. Anything that goes near him, he catches. But it's not always the easiest thing to trust that he's going to be open if he's not separating consistently.
I'd like to get your opinion on Antonio Gibson, because in my view, he seems to have taken pretty big strides from what we saw last year at this time, which was a guy who really didn't know how to be a running back.
Yeah.
And I thought this year, in this preseason, he looked a lot more comfortable in finding holes, hitting the holes, running decisively in a more traditional NFL running style. So thoughts on Gibson?
Yeah, I mean, last year he was basically just a zone runner. Because that's his 33 attempts in college were all zone runs out of the gun. So that's essentially what he was last year. And you know, there have been plenty of backs that have got by and made great careers out of being zone runners. And the Shanahan scheme, you know, was all about the zone run. So that's not a knock on him, but he just didn't know how to do it. He didn't run any of the other schemes. So certainly. Over the course of last season, you could see the progression. You could see him start to understand, like, hey, if I press this hole to the front side, I'm wanting to cut back, but if I press it to the front side, I'll get a linebacker to commit, and that will create the lane for me, rather than, well, I know I'm not going to get anything front side, so I'll cut it back immediately, and then that linebacker comes back over the top and gets him. So, like, he was starting to learn that progression, and I think that's what we'll see happen throughout this season, is that he'll consistently get better at that, with the patience and the vision to set up blocks and create lanes for himself. So that can only be a positive, and we'll hopefully see that expanded role from him as well, where we see those receiving skills that he displayed in college, where he can make some catches out of the backfield, or you know, split outside, motion outside, and contribute that way as well.
Yeah, I almost thought he was kind of a weird tweener in college to a certain extent, because they ran a very specific offense at Memphis. You know, he wasn't really a running back, but I didn't think he was a very good receiver, you know, like traditional wide receiver skills. And so the coaches clearly saw the potential to develop into what we're starting to see now. I think is what the long-term plan for Gibson always was.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. You're spot on there. They really they saw something that I think a lot of fans like the explosive athlete that he was, but when you watch the tape, it didn't always translate. And as you said, as a receiver, he wasn't particularly special. He mostly got separation from just being a better athlete than guys, rather than particularly amazing routes. So hopefully that it has developed as well over the off-season and in training camp and what have you, and then he can be a more complete threat.
The star of the preseason, of course, was none other, and Mark's laughing, he knows what I'm about to say. Jared Patterson has won the fans' hearts and minds.
I love him as well.
Tell us, what do you see in him?
I absolutely love him. He is the most natural running back of the group, and by that I mean he like McKissick and Gibson, as I talked about, they both were receivers in college that have become running backs in the NFL, and McKissick is further along in his development in that regard. But those guys didn't have, well, as we saw last year with Gibson, he didn't have the natural feel for setting up blocks. He would just try to, as soon as he got the ball, go 100 miles an hour, find the first hole, and take whatever he could get. Whereas we saw in that preseason game against the Patriots and then the Bengals, we saw how Patterson was patient. He wasn't kind of trying to make a huge impression by being like, "Oh, I'm so fast, I can hit this hole instantly. I can burst through and hit off a home run play." No, he was patient. He would set up the runs. He would work his run front side, get those linebackers to commit, create that hole, and then bounce back to the backside and pick up more chunk plays. And we saw a guy that in the last preseason game had a potential to be a bit of a blocker as well. We didn't really see him block too much on third downs as a pass protector, but more often than not, most teams rushed forward and didn't send any blitzers, so he would often check protection and then release into his route. But in that last game against the Ravens always like to send 5 rushers, so we saw a little bit more from him from that. So I think he's a guy that offers a little bit of everything, and is the most natural runner that they have. And the size is obviously a concern to an extent because you wonder how well it holds up. But it's not like he's a skinny guy. He's not Devonta Smith, who was 6'1", but 160 pounds or something like that. He doesn't look like he's fragile.
No, I like to call him Pinball because he's a little guy, but he's very round still.
Yeah. And that size almost becomes an advantage for him because we saw in those first couple games he was able to find holes that it didn't look like there was a gap between offensive linemen, but he was able to bounce his way through there and come out the other side, and the defense couldn't find him. So at a certain point that becomes an advantage for him, and he does use that size pretty well. So I absolutely love him. I think it's fantastic he made the team, and I don't think he's suddenly going to turn into like Christian McCaffrey overnight or anything like that, but he certainly can contribute this year.
Well, I think.
Let me ask you this question right quick.
Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead.
Jamal. No, go ahead.
What surprised you more? Was it the emergence of Jared Patterson or the fact that Washington actually moved on from Peyton Barber? Because, I mean, a lot of people, everybody knew or assumed, mostly everybody, I'm not going to say everybody because I definitely didn't. Mostly everybody assumed that Barber was going to be there regardless because they needed him and trusted him in certain situations. But, how are you in that perspective? Like, what surprised you more, Patterson or Barber?
Well, Patterson was a pleasant surprise. Barber, I think the expectation from him was that he would make the team because basically every beat reporter, all the information they were getting was this staff loves Barber. They see him as someone that can contribute, and if they get an injury to Gibson or McKissick, he can fill in. But, I mean, we all saw him in the preseason, and he supposedly trimmed down in the offseason to be a little bit more agile, and he didn't look particularly more agile. And if anything, that the loss of weight meant that he wasn't effective in the main role that he was effective in last year, which was that short yardage.
So he should have gotten fatter, which is what you're saying.
Not necessarily, but maintain what kept him on the team last year, which was that short yardage back. And like I felt last year Gibson has the bulk, the strength to take on that role, but not necessarily the decisiveness and the knowledge of, in this situation you might want to run it a certain way because you just want to get the 2 yards and get the first down. Whereas in a normal situation, you wouldn't cut it back this early or you wouldn't hit this hole at this point because you're only going to get 2 yards and the play could potentially get 5 or 6 or 7. But situationally, that changes how you read the run. And Barber obviously understood that and always just understood how to get 2 or 3 yards when he needed them. But I think Gibson could develop that way, and Patterson, I think, could easily understand that. And so I guess it's a good thing that the staff kind of recognized that, hey, we don't need that. We don't need a back that is just a short yardage back. We have guys with the potential to fill that role in Gibson and Patterson, and we get more upside from keeping Patterson instead of Gibson. Instead of Barber.
Yeah, I think that's a fair kind of assessment of what happened there. I was one of the people who was kind of rooting for Barber to get gone because I couldn't stand the two yards per carry average thing. We'll get to the defense in a second, guys, as we flip sides here at the midway point of the show. But I have something I need to read because we have a new advertiser for this show. And guys, I'm very excited about this one because it is a big advertiser. Fire up your tailgates, folks. The NFL's back. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And with the NFL returning, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when you bet $1 or more on any football game. Listen up because you don't want to miss this offer, folks. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 or more on any Week 1 game and receive $200 in free bets instantly. If Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings also has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. For 1 week, DraftKings is also giving new customers a free shot at $1 million top prize. Jamal, that sounds like good money to me. You love to bet, so maybe you could take advantage of that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet the house for sure.
Yeah.
Everything.
So, guys, go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that promo code HOGSTY to receive a $200 in free bet deal when you place $1 bet on any football game and get a free shot at that $1 million top prize with your first deposit. That's promo code HOGSTY this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. There's also an OR Indiana gambling line of 1-800-9-WITH-IT. But who listens to us in Indiana?
For our thriving gamble-holics in Indiana, call that number.
Right. What else are you going to do in Indiana other than gamble?
Hey, who knows? Okay, yeah. So, Mark, defense. Let's start with the linebackers because that seems to be the group with the most consternation. I wasn't impressed, particularly with Jamin Davis. Not that I think he's a bust or anything yet. We haven't seen him enough, obviously, but he didn't really do anything special to me. What do you think about Jamin Davis in preseason?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the first preseason game we saw the negative side of him playing the Mike position and then trying to put a lot on his plate because he looked a little bit like he was out there thinking rather than playing naturally and just reacting. And when you watched John Bostic next to him, you saw Bostic was really the one that was making the calls, even though he wasn't the Mike. And so I understand why they're doing it, and I think it's a long-term play is to put Davis at the mic and have him learn the position, because when you learn that position, you have to learn the entire defense, just from the nature of the position. And so if he learns that position and learns the entire defense, then that will make it much easier in the future for him to shift to the Will spot if they want him at Will, or shift to the Sam if they want him at Sam, or be able to make calls in the nickel package and that kind of thing. So in the long term, I understand the play, but in the short term, it could lead to things like what we saw in the preseason, where he's just a little bit slow to make some reads. He's a little bit slow to diagnose whether it's a run or a play action pass, and that will leave him a step or two behind. And you hope that as he gets more used to it, that will speed up, and then his athleticism can really shine and help him overcome any kind of slow reads. But certainly in that first game, and not quite so much against the Bengals, but a little bit still in the second game, we saw him getting reached on run blocks where he was just a little bit slow to diagnose, hey, is this a run outside, or is this a play action pass, or that kind of thing. He was just a little bit slow. So I'm not overly concerned about it. I think he'll be fine, and I would not be at all surprised if come week 1 against the Chargers, they flip him and Bostic around and Davis plays the Will, where he's just able to read and react and play a lot faster and let Bostic handle everything else.
That's personally what I would do.
That's probably what I would do as well. Whether they want to commit to this plan of Davis plays the mic and he learns the whole defense and it's a long-term play, I would understand that as well. But if you're looking to win week 1 and win right now, I think Davis helps you most at the Will, and Bostic helps you most as the mic.
I mean, talking about linebackers, my panic moment, not so much Davis, I know why people are worried, but the lack of depth of quality backup anywhere whatsoever.
Yep.
And that we initially saw they only kept 4 guys. Now they're back. They brought back David Mayo. I was kind of hoping they would go for the guy who was cut by, was it Miami McKinney? Who I know he's like more of a 3-4 outside guy, but they need more help there, right? I mean, they can't be done.
They certainly need more help there. I'd be surprised if they are done. I think, from what I understand, they still have 1 practice squad spot open, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do bring in someone and Mayo lands back on the practice squad or whoever. But like they certainly, I had them at 5, but that was only with Mayo as a special teamer. So the fact they went to 4 was kind of surprising, but suggested to me that that's not the final roster. They definitely have plans to get another linebacker in. They certainly look very, very short there. If they have the key injuries will be if they get an injury to Holcomb or Bostic, because those are the 2 glue guys that are they're not necessarily these amazing players, but they understand the system. They're reliable players. You know what they can and they can't do, and you can work around what their strengths and weaknesses are. Whereas, and obviously you want Davis to be healthy and develop and to play, but in terms of most impact on Sunday in week 1, I would imagine it's going to be Holcomb and Bostic that are going to make more plays than Davis, simply because they know the system more and Davis is still learning it. So if any of them get injured, Leaky Hudson looks okay, but I don't know if he's anything more than that. And then you're at the bare bones. I mean, as we say, they kept just 4, and then they brought back Mayo, who I'm pretty sure is just a special teamer. I don't think they see him as a linebacker they want to be playing on their starting defense. So they definitely need to find another guy somewhere.
Well, I've said about Mayo the whole time. I want him on this team like I want Mayo on a burger. It has no business there.
The problem though is
you don't put Mayo on a burger, man. What's wrong with you?
No.
That's awful. Yeah, I'm totally on Alex's side on that one. Terrible.
Well,
but I don't even see Khaleke Hudson almost as a linebacker. To be honest, I mean, I don't know how they thought that they were going to get away with only having 4 linebackers on the roster. It seems like Mayo had to be there almost by default, more than anything. Because what are you going to do? Put Khaleke Hudson in as the middle linebacker? I mean, that group concerned me then. It concerns me now. I think it's a major problem.
Yeah, I think what they are is one short, and if they could somehow find a guy that's a starting caliber guy, then that makes the rest of the group look a lot better, because then you have a little bit more depth. And if you were to bring in a starting linebacker at any one of the spots, then suddenly either Bostic, Holcomb, or Davis is a backup as your primary backup, and then Hudson's your 5th guy and Mayo's your special team 6th guy, and suddenly that looks a lot more balanced. But being able to find that kind of caliber guy at this time of the year is I can't imagine it's particularly easy, especially as like one of the few guys, like the top free agents that were available that were waiting for this kind of point, like a KJ Wright, that I don't know if they ever had any kind of interest in him, or whether that was ever particularly likely, but like he was one of the few recognized names out there, and now he's signed with I think it was the Raiders. So like those guys are all kind of getting snapped up now, so their options will be limited. But I think they do need someone.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the list of guys who were, cut. When everyone cut down, McKinney was really the only guy with a lot of starting experience, and then Josh Bynes. But I just saw that he's going to sign with the Ravens, and he's 32. So he'd be a veteran starter backup. So you're down to basically McKinney. All the others are, special teamers, guys who have played a little doing that, but not really starters. So that's going to be a problem.
I thought somebody. I was surprised they didn't keep Jordan Kunachik just by default, because they need somebody. And that Ravens game was just a disaster in my view.
But he made a play, yes.
He looked like he was the only one who even cared to even wanted to be there. So I was a bit surprised he didn't make the roster just because they need a body.
I think he's on the practice squad, though, right?
He's on the practice squad.
They could always elevate him going into the game week, so they at least have that option. But they certainly. Yeah, I agree. Linebacker, they're definitely short.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by the moves they made in the secondary, letting go of Moreland and who was it, Reeves?
Yeah, I was. Moreland surprised me. I'm not surprised at all by Apke, and I think a lot of people made it as Apke was on and they cut Moreland for Apke. But I see Apke as, the team basically said he's a specialist. He's a special teams guy.
He's a gunner. So, that's all he does.
He does a lot of things on special teams, but he's a special teams player, so he might as well be marked down with Hopkins and Tressway and Cheeseman as the fourth core specialist. So like, I didn't see it as Apke for Moreland. I saw it as they went with Darryl Roberts over Moreland, and that surprised me because I didn't think Moreland played badly. I anticipated once Benjamin St. Juste looked like he was going to contribute, and that would mean he would start outside with Fuller kicking inside to the slot in nickel packages, then that I anticipated Moreland would get relegated to backup role. But I thought that means that they've got some really nice depth, and Tory McTire looked good as well, and perhaps looked better than Moreland. But I thought that meant that then you've got 5 real nice DBs that you're real happy with at corner. So for them to then cut Moreland and stick with Roberts surprised me, and I think that was the biggest surprise. With Reeves, I wasn't too surprised, but it wasn't the move I would have made. I wrote before they cut down that I thought with Apke, DeShazer Everett, Derek Forrest, and Reeves, I kind of considered them all part of a group where...
Yeah, they're all special teams core guys.
Yeah. Well, Reeves to a lesser extent because he can contribute on defense. So I thought I thought you could only really keep 3 of those 4, and I thought you should keep Reeves because he offers something on defense, whereas the other guys, Everett does kind of, but I wouldn't be comfortable with Everett starting. So if you got to a point where DeSager Everett was starting, you'd probably be looking for safety help anyway. Whereas Reeves, if you need a week or two as a free safety there, you can kind of get by with that, as we saw last year. So that's why I would have gone with Reeves, and I would have cut Forrest outright. But obviously they wanted to protect Forrest and develop him as... I guess he's Everett's long-term replacement as kind of the backup safety special teams guy, but and you guess he's just not there yet. But I guess they were worried that someone would take him, so they wanted to IR him and kind of stash him for the year. So, and you know, we saw last year this happened with Reeves, where he got cut, made it to the practice squad. So I wasn't like worried that he would get picked up, but I wouldn't have necessarily risked him over Forrest.
How good is Ben St. Juste?
That one has surprised me because in college I saw a guy that if he got his hands on a receiver, he would jam them and would stick to it really well and wouldn't be beaten. But if he missed his jam, which we saw a few times in preseason, he'd get beat, which, you know, happens. But I also saw a guy that struggled in zone coverages and looked like he wasn't necessarily sure always which assignment he was responsible for in certain coverages against certain concepts. And there'd be stuff where he was meant to be the deepest defender on a cover 3, and teams would run a flood concept or a sail concept at him, and he wasn't sure whether to stick with the deepest receiver or take the intermediate one, and he'd end up getting caught in between and not even covering either. So, like, that kind of thing worried me about whether he'd be able to contribute, but this preseason he's looked pretty good. As I said, he's had 1 or 2 plays. He had one against the Patriots where he completely missed a jam and the guy burned him, and fortunately Mac Jones was looking elsewhere. But other than that game, he had one jam where he missed against the Bengals, but he showed some pretty nice feet and some quick hips to flip and get back on top of the route and recover. So he's been really good, and it really opens up what they can do defensively, because then Kendall Fuller can play in the slot and they can play more man coverage, and that allows them to be more flexible with what they do with Lyndon Collins and blitz him. And we saw in that Patriots game that Chase Young hit on Cam Newton. That was generated by they were blitzing Lyndon Collins off the other side, and the offensive line, they were sliding to Chase Young, but because of the extra blitz on the other side, they either had to try to account for Collins coming unblocked off that side by sliding back that way, or and then leave Chase Young one-on-one, and that's ended up what happened. And you can generate those one-on-one matchups with Chase Young by sending more blitzers or attacking different protection schemes with certain blitzers. And if Chase Young is left one-on-one, as we saw, like, he can be pretty deadly, and that's what the whole defense is designed to do, is to get those one-on-one matchups for Chase Young, and just being able to play man coverage across the boards allows you to do that.
And speaking of Lyndon Collins, it looked like a lot of fans were surprised that Lyndon Collins can actually play. To me, he's always been an outstanding in-the-box safety. It just, the team has to use him right. But it seems like he's in good shape and all that this year. What did you see in Collins?
Yeah, I was impressed with Collins. Like you say, I've always liked him in the box. Last year, when he had struggles, it was when they were playing two deep coverages. They were playing a lot of quarters, and that causes both safeties to stay back, but they're both involved in the run fit. And that means rather than starting in the box and playing almost as a linebacker, you're starting from deep, so you've got a lot more ground to cover, and the angles on the edge are a lot harder to make up and make tackles. So that was the issues he was having. But this year, in preseason, he actually played a lot more deep coverage than I expected, and as you mentioned, he's in better shape, and supposedly Jack Del Rio challenged him to get to his playing weight in college, which is a lot lighter than what he was in the NFL, and supposedly he's done that, and you can see he just looks sharper than he did last year. He looks, which is honestly amazing given the injury he's coming off of and the time frame that he's coming off that injury. But the ability for him to play deep, I still don't necessarily trust I'd want him as the single deep safety consistently, but to be able to do it a couple times a game, along with Cam Curl, gives them a hell of a lot of flexibility, and the trio of safeties they have there with Collins and Curl and McCain, those three could really allow them to mix up different coverages and different blitzes, and really attack offensive protection schemes in a variety of different ways.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show, and because we are in the game before the week before the first game, we do have to do Mark's favorite thing that he's done on here before, predicting the season.
We bullied and cudgeled him into doing it, actually, in the past.
Yes, he's been, we've had to, pull toenails to get Mark to do this once or twice. So, Mark, I'm going to say right off the bat, if you don't want to predict, you don't have to. It's fine. So we're going to try and do this quickly because, sometimes it takes us way too long. I'm just going to start reading the schedule, and guys, give me your predictions, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're going to start with Week 1, Los Angeles Chargers here in D.C. What do you guys think is going to go down there, win or loss?
Oh, God. Logic says loss, but we've had a decent preseason, or a decent offseason, not a decent preseason. I'm gonna go against my natural contrarian nature and say they win this game.
Win? All right.
Yeah.
Jamal?
This one's a head scratcher, but I'm gonna just tap into the fandom and say dub. It's a dub.
W. Mark, you want to do this or no?
Sure, I'll jump in. I'll go with a loss. I'll be the negative one. I think Herbert showed he was really good last year.
I'll say if it wasn't you, it was me.
It was me too. I'm regretting my choice already.
Yeah. I'm gonna go loss.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm changing mine to loss. They're not gonna win this game. I'm changing to loss.
Jamal, you want to switch?
Yeah.
Somebody got to stay on the W side. I'm gonna do it.
All right. Good for you, Jamal.
Give me the W. Yeah.
All right. 4 days later, Thursday, Giants game. Where are we going?
W.
Jamal, it's a W.
Yeah.
Thursday night, they've been historically horrible on Thursday night. The Giants have more weapons. I don't think they're going to overcome the curse of Thursday primetime, so loss.
All right. Jamal?
W.
Jamal said dub.
Oh, you said W. All right. Mark?
I'll go for a win there. I think they break
win.
that curse.
I'm saying win as well. Week 3 at Buffalo. Can we all just say loss?
Yep.
Jamal just held up an L.
Yeah, loss.
All right. Week 4 Falcons. That's a tricky one to me.
Look, if they can't beat the Falcons, weren't the Falcons 1-15 last year, or 2-14?
They've been bad for a couple of years now.
They won like 6 or 7 games.
They should have lost.
They've been bad for years now.
They have. I think they can beat the Falcons. I'm going win.
Win.
Yeah, I'll take a win there as well.
Win. All right, first 4 games we are. We're only 3 games in. Dang it. Are we? No. Well, that's 4. Jamal has some 3-1. Good for you, Jamal.
Oh, hey, look, that's fine. We ain't done with the schedule yet.
That's true. All right,
Falcons
Saints.
won 4 games last year, by the way, not 6 or 7. Come on, man.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said something, because they definitely. Matter of fact, they were number 2 and number 3, so no, they were even. It don't matter.
What did we all go? Did we all go win on Falcons?
Yes, we all went.
Yeah.
All went win on Falcons. Saints is next.
No.
Woo.
No. Yeah.
All right, Jamal. I know you're a big Jameis Winston fan.
I know. All right, here we go. W.
You're saying win? I am the anti-Winston fan, and I'm also saying win. Jamal?
W.
Wait, sorry. You're right.
Mark.
You said Mark.
I'm kind of torn. My gut says they lose this, but looking at the rest of the schedule, it kind of the next 4 games, I kind of feel like it's the only.
Just go week to week,
one.
Man. That's all you can do, week to week.
I'll go loss then.
All right. Chiefs.
That's no.
No, everyone's a loss, right?
Yeah.
Ew.
All right, and then Packers, same thing.
Same thing.
Oh no. Jamal, are you doing a win? Because you're doing 2 L's.
Oh no, that's this. Look, this is the W.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? I got it. Yeah.
Jamal's literally just holding up hand signs for
Ew.
folks at home. All right, Broncos. This one, I feel like
stop there.
Doesn't stop. Oh.
Yeah, I think they can actually take the Broncos. Broncos
I do
aren't
too.
that good.
I think it'll be a good game.
I think the Broncos have more talent, but I think their quarterback situation will hold them back, because at the moment it's Teddy and it could go to Drew Lock. And I think, saying that, Teddy Bridgewater, didn't he beat Washington last year?
Yeah.
So maybe I should go with it. I'll give him a win there, because otherwise I'm really down on this team.
Yeah, that's my point. They got to win a game somewhere at times.
Yeah.
It's going to be Denver.
Yeah, that's kind of where
Just
I'm
like
at too.
that.
Bye week.
4-1 to 4-4, just like that.
Yeah. Bye week is next, and then after that we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think we all are going to say a loss there, right?
Yeah, say it all together at one time.
1, 2, 3, loss.
Yeah.
Loss.
Right.
Ew.
Panthers. My favorite coach, Matt Rue. Jamal's saying win finally.
Yes,
Yeah,
back on the win column.
I think if they're going to win, or if they're going to make the playoffs this year, that's a game they need to win.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think the Panthers are all that good. I think Ron Rivera wants to prove a point. So, yeah, and the team is going to want to play for him. I'm going to say win.
Yeah, I'm going to say win. Seattle Seahawks, Monday Night Football.
W.
No, Jamal's going W.
Really? I'm going
There's always
loss.
games. There's always games in the year where you expect to lose some. I mean, you expect to win. You don't expect to win some of the games you win, and vice versa. So that's one of the ones you don't expect to win, but you do.
I'm going blowout loss on that one.
Yeah, I think we get our ass kicked. It's a Monday night game.
Yeah, exactly.
My gut says that's probably likely, but I kind of want to give it to them. I'm going to say they can beat the Seahawks.
Okay. All right. Next week is the Raiders at Vegas, which I know a lot of people are excited about to go gamble, and spend $500 on a nosebleed section ticket.
I'm going to say W. It's going to be a high-scoring game.
All right.
Actually, I'll take the high-scoring back. I forgot they lost some pieces on offense, but it's definitely a W.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they can beat the Raiders. I think by this time the team will have gelled a little bit. And again, they have to win some games. So I'm going to say W.
I'm going to say it's a loss. Mark?
I'm going to say that's another one of those games like the Panthers that if they're going to get anywhere this season, they need to win that. So I'll give them a win.
All right. now we get to the final five, the rivalry games, the backloaded weird thing they did this year. So starting with the Cowboys at home.
Here's the problem. Catching the Cowboys early in the season would have been better because Dak Prescott is, who knows,
not going to be 100%, yeah.
But by this time, they may be rolling. And it seems to me when they beat Dallas, they beat them on the road for some reason. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's always been my impression. I hate to pick against Washington against Dallas. I think it's a loss. I'm sorry.
You think it's an L?
Yeah.
Jamal, you're saying loss?
Yeah, first game, Dallas gonna come up with a state. They're gonna try and make a statement in FedEx in Maryland for what happened last year, like just to make sure that we know that wasn't the Dallas team that's supposed to take the field. So first game against Dallas is a L.
I actually think Dallas might implode this year, so I'm gonna say this is a win because I think there's a chance Mike McCarthy might not even be coaching by this point. So that's kind of my direction I'm going.
I'm going to take a W as well because I think I've got them currently on a 3-game win streak going into this game.
You have them on a 4-game win streak. Oh, going into that, yeah, you're on 3.
Yeah, so I think, I have constantly said all off-season that Dak coming back makes the Cowboys a legitimate threat in the NFC East, but I don't think their defense is going to come back all the way, and their offensive line generally tends to get banged up. So at this time of year, you'd be hoping that Chase Young and Montez Sweat and that group can kind of take over and kind of negate what Dak can bring.
Okay. Week 15 at Philly. Time to be determined. I guess we're in that point of the schedule. By the way, I'm just going to say, Steve, you've got 4 wins so far on the season.
Yeah, I know. Jamal just flashed a W, so Jamal's at a W.
Yeah,
I think if anybody's going to implode, I think it may be the Eagles, because I think by this time, I don't think much about Jalen Hurts as an NFL quarterback. I never have. And I think by this time we may be entering the Gardner-Minshew era, which is just going to be a problem, in chaos. So I think they win this game.
All right. So that puts you at 5 wins for the season. All right, Jamal's at win, which means you're at 8. I am going to say win as well. I think the Eagles are garbage. I'm at 7. Mark, what about you?
I want to say win, but then I've got them on a 6-game winning streak, and I don't think that's happening. So I'm going to say that this is one of those games where Washington comes crashing back down to earth and has that. They always have that one game a season where it's just like, the hell just happened? This is a completely different team than what we
know what? If we have
experienced.
One of those, that's actually a good season, because usually it's like 4.
What'd you say, Alex? You said win, right?
I said win. Okay. So Mark's saying loss. By the way, Mark, you have 7 wins so far.
I have 7 wins so far. God.
Yeah. With 3 games to go, let's go to the next one at Dallas. So everyone else predicted what or Steve and Jamal, you both said loss when Dallas was here. Are you going to go loss on the road?
I'm going to go win. I think I think the team gets it together on the road against Dallas for some reason. So I don't think they're going to get swept by Dallas.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and plus Dallas sucks at defending their home field, so W.
Yeah, I'm going to say win, obviously, for the reasons I stated about I think Dallas is just, going to totally be imploded by late in the season. So, Mark?
I'm going to take a loss there because I'm going to say it's the flip of what happened in the previous result at home, and they implode again. So
yeah, all right. Okay, now we have the Philadelphia Eagles at home. I hate this. It's like Dallas Eagles in the schedule. I really hate that part of the schedule. But, all right, so Eagles at home. Where are you at?
I think they can sweep the Eagles. I think the Eagles are the ones that are going to implode because of their quarterback problem, and they're not that good anyway, talent-wise. So I actually think they're going to sweep the Eagles.
Jamal?
So do me a favor and just flip the L. Flip the L, so Philly, change that from the W
win
to
to a
L.
loss.
And then I have them beating Philly at home.
Okay, all right, so you're just
so
going to flip
week
those?
17, yes.
All right, I got you. All right, what about you, Mark?
Yeah, I'll take a win there. They bounce back after, I think I've got 1 or 2 game losing streak, so I think they bounce back and give themselves a shot at the playoffs going into the last week.
I want to say we beat them because I love beating Philly at home, but I'm afraid to say it partly. But I guess I'll say we beat them. They're, like you guys have said, they're not.
Anytime the people of Philadelphia suffer, it's always good for the world.
No comment on that right now. All right, let's week 18, first week 18 ever on the NFL schedule. What do you guys have us doing at the New York Giants to close out?
Oh man, see, this is really like, how pessimistic or optimistic are you about the season as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if I say they win, that means they finished on a 4-game winning streak. But I had them losing in week 2 to the Giants. I don't think they're going to get swept by the New York Giants. So I'm going to go, they finish strong, W.
Win, all right.
Yeah. Can't believe I said that.
W, because I think it's going to come down to that Week 18 game, like it's designed to do. But for Washington, I think it does come down to Week 18. So, but I think they sweep the Giants. I think they split between Dallas and Philly.
Okay. All right, I'm going to say it's a loss, which I put them at. That means I'm saying they won 9 games overall. And what's that? It's not 9-7 now. It's 9-8, right?
Did you say you had them winning the week before, right, Alex, or lost?
Yeah.
Win. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so Mark, what do you got? You have them at 8 wins so far.
I have them at 8 wins. My gut says they typically play terribly against the Giants.
Especially the closer, like which I feel like we've closed against them.
They've gotten
10
blown
times,
out.
You know,
looked awful.
Yeah, exactly. My gut says they're gonna lose, but I think maybe I'll give one tip of the hat to Rivera as changing the culture of this team, and they managed to break that kind of pessimistic view that I have, and they'll take a win here, get to 9 wins on the season.
9-8 is what you got them at.
And
Steve has them at 8-9. You and I are both at 9-8, and Jamal's got a 10-7. He's optimistic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got 10. I thought. I'll go ahead, Mark. But I thought I had 9.
No, I'm good with 9.
Yeah, I see Chargers.
I got 11 for Jamal.
Remember, because initially I had Philly winning. I mean, I had them beating Philly on the road, and I switched. That's the only game I switched. I said take the W from that one and make it an L. And I think that was the only one. That would have took me down 1 L.
I saw
11, Jamal.
You said they beat the Chargers, beat the Giants.
Yeah.
Lost the Bills, beat the Falcons.
3-1.
Yeah, beat the Saints. Then I have 4 losses in a row versus Chiefs, Packers, Broncos, and Bucks. Carolina Panthers and Seahawks, you said win. Raiders, you said win.
6-5. 7-5.
Yeah. 2 losses in a row to Dallas and Philly.
7-7.
Yeah, and then 3 wins in a row, right?
I did. Okay.
It's because you flipped one around. You confused yourself, I think.
Yeah, isn't that 11 wins?
No, that's 10.
That's 10. All right, I was just making sure.
Yeah. Because it really matters, for bragging rights. All right, guys. Well, I think that wraps it up. Jamal, I know you got to go. I know you got your girlfriend or your family or something. You're doing something. So, good seeing you, as always. Steve and Mark, good seeing you guys as well. Always fun to, talk to Mark right before the season and force him to do things he doesn't want to do.
Everybody, I would recommend, if you're going to put money on the season, follow Mark's predictions.
Yes, that would also be my advice.
Trust Mark's predictions with your hard-earned money.
I don't know if that's right.
I'm pretty sure. Go to the DraftKings app, Mark, and put some money down, to help with that, website of yours.
I'm pretty sure the last couple of times I've done this, I've been horribly, horribly wrong. So I don't know if that is the right advice to follow my predictions.
It might not be. I don't remember. We could go back and look. I think we have them archived somewhere.
Yeah, please don't.
Okay, guys. We will talk to you all next week after the game. Or, no, we got to do a pregame show, don't we?
We have a pregame show this Thursday. We're first to the grind begins.
Oh, the grind. All right. We're going to do a pregame show, and then we'll be back next week, folks. Later.